Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
It's showtime.
It was a cold and quiet evening in 1987 when the cast and crew of Beetlejuice gathered on set to film what would become one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history, the summoning of Beetlejuice. Under Tim Burton's eccentric direction, the production had a whimsical, eerie charm that kept everyone engaged. But that night, something shifted. A creeping unease settled over the crew as the cameras started rolling, a palpable tension that no one could quite explain. It felt as though an unseen presence had joined them, lurking just beyond the lights, waiting. The scene they were shooting was pivotal. Beetlejuice, the mischievous and chaotic ghost, would be summoned by the character saying his name 3 times. Michael Keaton, dressed as the manic ghost, had become synonymous with the role, channeling a wild energy that electrified the set. Yet, on this particular night, as the crew prepared to film the summoning, strange things began to happen. The atmosphere grew thick with apprehension. The light-hearted tone that had defined the production seemed to drain away, replaced by an unshakable feeling of dread. As the cameras rolled, Keaton's Beetlejuice costume mysteriously disappeared. The entire crew searched frantically for it, but no one could find the distinctively garish suit. Hours passed before it was finally located, locked inside a room that had already been sealed off for the night. No one had entered. No one had the key. It was as if the costume had moved on its own. Just a glitch, they told themselves. But those present knew better. Something was wrong. They could feel it in the heavy silence that followed, in the way the shadows seemed to stretch longer than usual, almost as if they were watching. After that night, the cast and crew couldn't shake the eerie feeling that had settled over the set. At first, it was dismissed as exhaustion or the result of the long hours spent filming, but soon, small things began to happen that were harder to explain. Props would move when no one was looking. The cameras would malfunction at key moments, only to work perfectly fine when filming resumed. And then there were the whispers. Quiet, almost imperceptible at first, but growing louder as the days passed. Rumors started to spread among the crew. Rumors of ghostly figures seen on set after hours, strange laughter echoing in empty rooms, and the unsettling feeling that they were never truly alone. Some of the cast joked about saying Beetlejuice's name 3 times, just like in the film, but those who were there that night felt an unease that ran deeper than superstition. Something had awakened, and it was no longer a joke. As time went on, the summoning scene became infamous among the crew. People began to whisper that the act of saying Beetlejuice's name 3 times might not be as harmless as it seemed. After all, what if the ritual was more than just a clever plot device? What if it had actually invoked something? Years later, a group of young filmmakers, completely unaware of the dark rumors that had followed the original Beetlejuice production, set out to recreate the iconic summoning scene. They admired the film for its humor and its quirky charm, and they wanted to pay tribute to Tim Burton's genius by filming a homage to the classic scene. They rented a small, dilapidated soundstage, its walls still echoing with the memories of long-abandoned productions. The perfect setting, they thought, for a tribute to Beetlejuice. As the camera rolled, the lead actor stood before a makeshift altar, surrounded by fake cobwebs and flickering candles, and with a gleam of excitement in his eye, he said it. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. The lights flickered once, twice. Then, everything went dark. For a full minute, the room was plunged into an oppressive silence, so thick it felt like the walls were closing in. The crew stood frozen, the weight of the darkness pressing down on them. And then, faintly at first, came a sound. A giggle, almost playful, drifting out from somewhere deep within the shadows. It was quickly followed by a low, guttural laugh, the kind that chills your bones and makes your skin crawl. The director, paralyzed by fear, stared in horror as the equipment around him began to shift. Cameras tipped over, lights swayed back and forth as though an unseen force was toying with them. When the lights finally sputtered back to life, they revealed a horrifying sight. Scrawled across the wall, in what appeared to be thick red paint, were the words, "It's showtime." Except there was no paint on set. The crew was visibly shaken, but they tried to laugh it off. After all, it had to be a prank, right? Maybe one of the crew members was playing a trick, trying to scare everyone. But deep down, they all knew there was something wrong. They couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Over the next few days, things got worse. One of the actors collapsed during a second take of the summoning scene, gasping for air as if an invisible hand had closed around his throat. Panic spread through the set as the crew rushed to his side, but when the paramedics arrived, they found nothing physically wrong with him. He recovered quickly, but the incident left everyone unnerved. The nightmares began shortly afterward. Members of the crew reported waking in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, with the sound of Beetlejuice's maniacal laughter ringing in their ears. Some claimed to see him standing at the foot of their beds, grinning wickedly as he whispered threats that dissolved into cruel laughter before vanishing into the darkness. But these weren't the first strange occurrences tied to the production of Beetlejuice. Years after the original filming wrapped, Winona Ryder, who had played the role of Lydia Dietz, revealed a chilling encounter she had during the shoot. In a rare interview, Ryder hesitantly recounted a night she spent alone in her trailer after a particularly long day on set. She had been reviewing her lines when she heard a knock on the door. Expecting it to be one of the crew members, she got up and opened the door, but no one was there. Confused, she closed the door and returned to her script, only for the knock to come again, this time louder and more insistent. She opened the door once more, only to be met by the same eerie emptiness. But as she stepped outside, she caught a glimpse of something, or someone, standing at the far end of the set. It was a figure, shrouded in shadow, dressed in a black and white striped suit. Beetlejuice. The figure stood motionless, watching her from the darkness. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took a step back. But when she blinked, the figure was gone. Winona Ryder never spoke of that night again, until the interview, where she shared just enough to hint at the terror she felt. She smiled nervously as she finished her story, her voice barely above a whisper. Some things should remain unsaid. After all, it's showtime. In 2022, a group of amateur filmmakers decided to revive the legend of Beetlejuice for a documentary. They had heard the stories, of course, but they didn't believe in curses or haunted sets. It was all just Hollywood folklore, right? Determined to prove that there was no such thing as the Beetlejuice curse, they set up a live stream and, with a laugh, dared the ghost to appear. Beetlejuice, 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 they chanted in unison, grinning at the camera as they spoke the forbidden words. The screen flickered. For a moment, everything was still. Then, just as before, the lights went out, plunging the set into total darkness. The live stream continued for several minutes, capturing only the sound of nervous breathing and the occasional rustle of movement. But then, faint and far away at first, the laugh returned. It grew louder, closer, until it was no longer a laugh, but a chilling cackle, as though the very walls of the studio were mocking them. Viewers watching from home reported feeling a deep sense of dread as the laugh filled their speakers. Just before the screen went black, a final image flashed across the stream, a twisted, contorted face grinning menacingly at the camera. Beetlejuice. The filmmakers were never seen again. To this day, people claim to hear strange noises in the abandoned sound stages where Beetlejuice was filmed. The laughter, the whispers, the eerie sensation of being watched. It all lingers, as though the spirit of Beetlejuice himself was left behind, waiting for someone to speak his name once more. So if you ever find yourself on one of those dark, forgotten sets, and the temptation to say it overwhelms you, Beetlejuice, 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 just remember one thing. Are you ready for it to be showtime? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. hit that subscribe button and share with your friends. Stay tuned for more spine-tingling stories here on Scary Stories